Okay, and guess what? This is the Hinkle program, and I am Jerry Hinkle, and you are the program. So wait a minute, I'm Jerry Hinkle, and this is my program. It's early, and yes, we are coming to you almost live from the Ashley Green studio of the UBS network, and I know I didn't hold out much hope for a Jerry Hinkle program episode this week, but so much has happened that I felt compelled, I felt drawn to even though I was busy on Monday. So as a matter of fact, I was so busy on Monday, I ended up sleeping through most of it. I was busy sleeping, but I managed to get to the Cracker Barrel session at noon at MTI almost on time. They were giving instructions at the time, and of course I know the instructions almost by heart. And I didn't ask a question. I was going to ask a question about daylight savings time, but I felt better of it because I was worried that the Daily Republican would take my photograph. And I looked a whole lot worse, if you can imagine it, yesterday. Anyhow, another thing, and well, yes, there are news that I guess Cuban Canadian, allegedly American politician. That Cruz fella, I can't think of his first name right now. Anyhow, he pulled off the impossible and deflated the ego of Donald Trump. Ted Cruz. Thank you, Lucy. And my secretary Lucy, she knows everything, and what she doesn't know, doesn't need to be known. Okay, but yeah, Ted Cruz, he had deflated uh, uh, Donald Trump's ego and won the Iowa caucus by a pretty decisive amount, I guess, something like a few percentage points. There was not much. He defeated Donald Trump by a few, and that Marco Rubio, he was a close third. So this could be an interesting little horse race on the Republican side. And speaking of horse races, Democrats weren't any slouch either. They To say that Hillary won by a nose would be this is overstating it, because the rate to say the rate is, it's so close that they haven't even called it yet, even though it's been all this time. And so we'll see. I don't. It is possible that, but it's even a paper thin margin by whoever beats the other one. That it's just too. It's a statistical dead heat, as Dave Letterman used to say. Statistical. And so that's the news. Now let's get back to the real purpose of the show. Those of you who can read know that the title of this show is Jerry is Famous Again, and that's a nod to the recent South Dakota Magazine article about Hyde County and its history. All of South Dakota's counties are rich in history. My home county of Hyde County is no different. There are I was not the only one featured in this article. John and David Silverberg were in there a little bit. The late Richard Harder, I did not know that Richard had passed, and that is, I want to extend my sympathy to his family at the time, or at this time rather, because he was from as far as I know, he was a real nice guy. We never had any bad history. and he married to a real nice lady, uh, Deb Shaw Reinhardt, and of course now Harder. So, and and she, I hope that she knows that she made his life happy towards the end. From what I've heard since then, got in contact with some folks and found out, well, anyhow. So I want to give you a little, kind of a brief history of what happened to the. Hopefully this isn't going to take 2 hours because I got other stuff to do. I got to eat. Today is Groundhog Day. I got to eat some sausage, go outside and see if I can find my shadow. Punxsutawney Phil has not seen his shadow, and if we're in a blizzard advisory here in beautiful downtown Mitchell, so it's very possible I won't see my shadow, and my shadow weighs 50 pounds. So that's going to have to be one heck of a blizzard, but I got to get that sausage ate first. But let's get back to this. Now, the Holabird Advocate started the real history of Holabird Advocate started about 16 years ago when the internet had just come to Holabird. Well, not come to Holabird, but to my home. See, my mother wanted to wait until that whole Y2K thing was over before she bought a computer. And then, as soon as the Y2K come around, she started looking at, and then the guy says, "Well, there's this. They're worried that the leap year is going to play havoc with computers now." I said, "Well, don't." She got, it was February, and so and it was around this time that I was working for the Census Bureau. So my mother was, and she got the computer. She got doing things with the computer and the internet and whatnot. And I was busy doing other things, and I working for the Census Bureau and thing and other. And to tell you the truth, I was not in favor of my mother getting a computer because I thought that the computer was an instrument of Satan. I was a religious nut back then, and I'm a little nutty still today, but that's true. I was not for it, and my mother might be able to remember that. Yeah, that's right, he wasn't for it. But I was converted. Hopefully not to Satanism, and time will tell. But no. And I did, that Microsoft streets and maps and roads, that one where you can look up addresses, and oh my goodness, and I could almost see the houses that they was, and so that was a real nice program. Well, then pretty soon, eventually, we got to the internet, and I got to, learning all about email and whatnot. And now, while I was working for the Census Bureau, I was put in the, what was the name of that place? The Super 8 Motel in Fulton, South Dakota. And I saw an old episode of Saturday Night Live where Chevy Chase gave the weekend update that said, "I'm Chevy Chase, and you are not." And, that's interesting. Well, then I got to hearing about one of Uncle Don's sons-in-law had this little family, newsletter that he and his, I think his daughter Elizabeth was involved, and his wife. I can't remember his name or his wife's name. I remember his daughter. He had a daughter named Elizabeth. So yeah, I'm going to make sure John's tagged in this video so he can give me the 411 on that. Because I'm sure he knows all the names of his nieces and nephews just like I do. I can tell you my nieces and nephews in chronological order. There is Jamie, Ashcan, Caitlin, Brittany, Shelby, Justin, Connor. Cade. Cade is in between. Justin and Connor. And I can see John's a little bit smarter than I am. So of course, he has a few more nieces and nephews than I do. So anyhow, so I did this little newsletter. I called it the Weekend Update, and I kind of did kind of a Chevy Chase Saturday Night Live kind of thing there, and it was kind of biting satire. And so some of my relatives wanted to kick my teeth in during some of the news gathering that I did, and but there were a lot of others, family and friends, who enjoyed the Weekend Update so much that they said, I wish you could do that every day. So, well, I eventually relented, and I did what I called a midweek update on Wednesday, in case I was to miss a weekend or something like that, kind of balance that. Because by about this time, I was also doing the Market America thing, and I kind of miss Market America, but that's neither here nor there. And so, eventually, it was my birthday on 2001, where my cousin Susan Marie Hansen Geitzenauer sent me a birthday card, which is the best kind of thing to send a fella on his birthday. And instead of money, she sent an article from the USA Today. Cousin Al's newspaper. Yeah. And there was an article in there about this thing called blogging, and there was different websites. There was www.blogger.com, and then there was livejournal.com, and those were the two big blogging companies right there. And I tried Live Street, and it just wasn't very user friendly. They wanted me to pay $5. Blogger was free. Guess which one I went with? you know. And of course, everybody else in the whole world knows. And the whole world knows that I went with Blogger. And I figured, what was I going to name the blog? And I was not, also I was reluctant to do this blog, but I figured after 9/11, I thought, the world could use a laugh after a tragedy like that, and maybe I could do a kind of a mixture of funny stuff and then get serious when the need arose. So I figured, I thought there are several Ponderosa Post. I nicknamed, back then I called what is now the Hinkle Hilton the Ponderosa, and so that was one of my choices. The other one was Confusing Times, sort of a newspaper feel. I thought Changing Times would be a good one, or Confusing Times, excuse me. Changing Times, that's a different. There was a newspaper called Changing Times. That I don't know if that's in business anymore, but Confusing Times was another choice. I ended up with Holabird Advocate because there was a history of that was the first newspaper in Hyde County, and it didn't last very long after Holabird was soundly rejected for being the county seat. At one time, Holabird was bigger than Highmore, if you can imagine it. They had a hotel and everything, the Cleveland Hotel, which goodness only knows where that was. But anyhow, that was another thing. So we get started with the Holabird Advocate. And I for some reason, I'm kind of OCD or DCO about this CDO. It's like the T-shirt says, I have CDO. It's like OCD, except the letters are in alphabetical order. Anyhow, so I started right at January 1, 2002, an easy anniversary to remember, to be sure. And to be honest, I wasn't quite sure how it was going to turn out. And my dad was less than supportive. Also, too, he viewed the whole blogging thing as a waste of time, and he let that be known several times throughout the course of the blog. And I have to agree that when the whole thing started catching on, there was no one more confused than I was about this. And the one thing the South Dakota Magazine article said was that the whole thing about the naked dancing or the exotic dancing, that wasn't for a few years after the founding of the Holabird Advocate. That was it took about 2 or 3 years before other blogs started. We started reading each other's stuff, and that blogging became really a thing around like 2004, 2005, or something like that. And I believe that was when that happened, and that whole thing. I barely remember that time, because I don't even remember if that was an actual if exotic dancing was. It was just a rumor. You know how rumors get started in small town. Maybe big city folks don't know that, but rumors get started pretty easy in a small town. There was a rumor that there might be exotic dancing at this new bar in Highmore, and of course, with tongue firmly in cheek, I had to say something. I said a whole lot of things about a whole lot of things, and that was just one of those things that I said something about. And it was an interesting time in my life, and I would not. It was fun to remember. I got to thank all the folks at South Dakota Magazine for helping me remember. It's nice to remember way back when I was an awesome writer, and now that I'm pretty much a nobody. It's nice to remember way back when I am awesome, instead of the lame loser that I am today. Of course, that depends on your point of view. Anyhow, I was a nice, and of course, I picked out for the template of the Holabird Advocate that I wanted my corporate logo to be the bow tie for whatever reason, and as a matter of fact, my original bow tie is lost and gone forever. But I found at Walmart a bow tie on sale for $9, and I snatched that bad boy up, and that's the bow tie that I don't have it with me now, and I'm not going to look for it, because that would. We're nearly 20 minutes, or 18 and a half minutes into the show now, so there's no point in finding a bow tie. Anyhow, that is, well, of course, after Granddad died, and I, it was pretty much a fait accompli, which it's French for meaning it's going to happen sooner or later, that I would be going to Dakota Wesleyan, or at least trying to. That was an interesting time, and really doesn't have anything to do with Holabird Advocate, except for that's kind of the death knell, because once I moved to Mitchell, things changed in my life to where the Holabird Advocate and blogging and all that was no longer a high priority. And that was. I remember when I was trying to get in, and things looked like it wasn't going to happen. My mother said, "Well, what's your second choice of a college?" And I said, "There is no second choice. If Wesleyan doesn't work out, I'm just going to lay on the couch, get fat, and I keep on doing what I've been doing." So, at that point, someone must have been doing an extra heap of praying, because it wasn't too long after that I got into the university, And then that was a whole other thing over there. I got involved in the Reno Cosme and some actual journalism. See, and right away, see, but now the thing about the Hollywood Advocate is, the first thing I did was declare war on ignorance, and that was a little kind of a parody of something that Cecil Adams from the Straight Talk fame did. He is a columnist for the Chicago Reader, an independent newspaper, and there's a website about straight dope. That's what it's called, with Cecil Adams, and he is purportedly the smartest man in America, and there is precious little he does not know. And his motto is fighting ignorance since 1973. It's taking longer than I thought, and so I kind of went with that. This is fighting ignorance since 2002. And we're not even tired or something like that. Anyhow, eventually, we stopped declaring war on ignorance, and we, because, well, let's face it, in the world we live in, it's just the fight. We're going to lose every time because ignorance is just prevalent out there. And we declared war on cancer. We got a victory with on our knees, and unfortunately, none of the other cause celebs that I don't, none of them, unless Alan and Dot Hansen are still alive. If anyone knows if Alan and Dot Hansen are still alive, you get them on here. And you know why? Because I want to hear all about what. Because that was one of the things that sadly I did not have time to do. Because and another thing, when interest in the Hollywood Advocate came about, my dad was a little dumbfounded. He was, as I was, because as he said, I can't imagine. We had South Dakota Magazine, Depot Radio in Brookings, did an interview with me, and Killowland never called. What's wrong with you, Kettleland? Why didn't you call? Well, because, first with the best in the upper Midwest, and they missed out on me completely. Maybe I'm not the best. No, that's probably one. Anyhow, and it's too late now. Anyhow, so what? Yeah, well, like I said, my dad says, I can't imagine anybody outside the family and a few friends that would want to read this. And I said, I am in total agreement there. But according to all the tracking software that I used to, track that sort of thing, the circulation department, as I called it, the little town of Holabird and the little news blog that did garnered, and there were readers from all 50 states of the Union. Nothing in Puerto Rico, but D.C. even picked up. Yeah, there was D.C. Did Puerto Rico, and ain't nobody cared about that. And there was 16 different countries. I can't name them all, but there were 16 countries in 6 of the 7 continents. Nobody in Antarctica has read the Hollywood Advocate. So if you know someone from Antarctica, you clue them in. We'll see. I'll do some special stuff about that. I'll go back and right now, the last post I did on the Hollywood Advocate was last August, I believe it was. I did a presidential poll, and of course it was too soon to tell who it would be. But according to that, I think Donald Trump was the highest ranked Republican. He tied with none of the above, and Bernie Hunhoff was the clear favorite over Hillary Clinton. There's a lot of socialism in South Dakota, and that's, you know, and so anyhow, that's how that went about. And I guess that's all I really have to say about the Halberd Advocate, except I must say it's been a wild. It's been 14 years since I started the Halberd Advocate and did all. And a great big one of the things that helped was, I used to do everything longhand. Then my mother showed me the shortcut of cut, copy, and paste, and boy, that saved me a lot of time. It's amazing all the stuff that I didn't know. But anyhow, that's all for this week. There's, I guess, Groundhog Day. We got the day the music died and all that stuff going on. So, oh my goodness, yes, that's true. The 1959 was. Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Richie Valens were playing a show on Groundhog Day, and the weather was 30 below, and the bus didn't have any heat. But there were two of us, so Buddy Holly chartered a bus, and then of course chartered a plane rather. Didn't work out for him, I guess, but that's neither here nor there. Okay, well, I could sing you a little song, but I've taken up enough of your time. We're getting on to a little more than our allotted time. So, well, maybe a quick little tune. If you knew Peggy Sue, then you'd know why I feel blue without Peggy. Peggy Sue, well, I love you, gal, and I need you, Peggy Sue. Yeah, I love you, Peggy Sue, with a love so rare and true, Peggy, my Peggy Sue. Well, I love you, gal, and I need you, Peggy Sue. And of course, there's no commercials, so we'll just wrap it up and say this is the Jerry Hinkle program from the Ashley Kringen Studios of the UBS Network. So until next time, God be with you and do the best you can. And hey, get out of my bathroom. You're invading my privacy.